Good morning, and welcome to Peace Church. Those who are online and those here in the room, my name is Ethan Lumen, and it's a joy to be with you, worshiping here at Peace. And I'm really glad you're here for this sermon series, this message series, Words for the Journey. If it's your first Sunday with us, what we've been doing is walking through some words that orient us toward prayer, orient us toward God. And these words happen to also be on stones scattered around our property as part of a prayer path. So we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But first, we're going to read together from the Scriptures. One of the ancient practices of the church is responsive readings, because it's really, faith is a conversation. Faith is a conversation. Trust is a relationship. And this models that relationship between God and His church. And so I'll read the normal print part, and you would please read the bolded part as we read together Psalm 37, verses 1 through 11. Fret not yourself because of evildoers. Be not envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your justice as the noonday. Be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for Him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself, it tends only to evil. For the evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in abundant peace. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Clarity. Our prayer path is designed to give people space to pray and an opportunity to be outdoors in the midst of creation, enjoying what God has given us and being in the presence of the God who, well, He's everywhere. But one of these benches is in memory of a woman named Pauline, and there's a rock there with that word, clarity, on it. She passed away recently at 92 years old, lived a great life. She lost her husband just a couple years before, and you can imagine after that many years together how hard it was for her to bounce back. She got kind of sad and depressed, and she started to slow down herself. Her family was her world. She grew up in a large family. She had 10 children of her own. She was dedicated to her family. She found such great purpose there. As I was talking with her daughter, she said, she started cooking for her family as a child at age 6. You guys going to trust your kids in the kitchen? And at 14, she was managing the kitchen at a restaurant. Here's a woman who, well, she just got up and went. But in that season, losing her husband, she came and she didn't quite know what to do, how to move forward from this. Well, one of her favorite verses was from 1 Corinthians 14. It said, God is not a God of confusion, but a God of peace. God does not want us to be confused, but to be at peace. And she was seeking that peace in the midst of her loss. And, well, I can tell you, aren't we all there? We want to see what God is up to. We want to know what God is doing, what God's plan is for my life. Why is this thing happening? How am I supposed to make it through this challenge or this event? Things in life right now seem pretty confusing. How are we going to make it through? I think we'd all like some clarity. God, just make it clear how to take my next step, how to plan out my next 5-10 years, how to make sure that I can retire early. Just make it clear, God. God is not a God of confusion, but of peace. Well, as I was planning for this message, Psalm 37 seemed to be the perfect place to go to seek and to speak about clarity. And the thing about Psalm 37, it's a longer psalm. It starts off by saying it was written of David. It means David wrote it. And later on in the psalm, it's like 40 verses long. We read the first 11, and I'm only going to be talking about the first 7 or so here today. But later on in the psalm, David says, I was once a young man, and now I'm old, but I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. And we can know from that, then, that David is older as he writes this psalm. And as he writes this psalm, actually, he never once addresses God. Rather, he's always addressing the people of God. It's like wisdom literature. It's like encouragement. It's like an exhortation from God himself to us through David. So as we read this, we get encouraged. We get encouraged from David. And actually, the poem is an acrostic. Basically, it goes through every letter of the Hebrew alphabet and showing that maybe there's a totality, a wholeness, a sense of peace and completion to this psalm as we seek God in the midst of the difficult parts of life. So it starts off with these words, fret not yourself because of evildoers. Be not envious of wrongdoers. As I looked at this first verse as well, you notice all the emotions. Fretting. As I think about fretting, I thought worry. Does anyone else? Worry, fret, don't fret yourself. But when I look deeper into it, the word actually means to burn with anger. A little different than worry. To burn with anger. Don't burn with anger over people who are doing wrong. And we can hear wrongdoers and we can think like, those people far out there, but I'm sure you know somebody who you say they're doing wrong things. Maybe a coworker you got some complaints about. Maybe somebody that lives in your house. Maybe somebody that lives on your street. I'm sure you know somebody. Maybe you wouldn't call them an evildoer, but you definitely say they could do better. Don't burn with anger. Okay, that's the first invitation from David. Watch your emotions. We got to say this. Emotions are neither good nor bad. Emotions just are what they are. But as we encounter our emotions, as we experience our emotions, we have the choice to, do good or do bad with them. And David is saying, hey, your emotions might cloud your vision, but there's a way through them. Your emotions might cloud that sense of clarity, what's right and wrong. Don't go there. Just get through your emotions. Get through your emotions. So don't burn with anger. Don't fret. But he also says, don't be envious. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous of those who are doing wrong. You don't yearn for, hey, they got it so good and they're doing bad. Why don't I just maybe be like them? Don't let your emotions lead you that way either. Here's the thing about emotions. God has emotions too. As I was reading through this psalm, as I was reading through this verse, I was like, I feel like I've heard God burning with anger. I feel like I've heard God be jealous. And sure enough, I went and looked in the book of Exodus, verses 9 and 10, just after the people of Israel, they make that golden calf in the wilderness and they start worshiping it. God is with Moses on the mountain. He says, I've seen this people, stiff-necked, terrible people. Therefore, leave me alone. Go out of my presence, Moses, that my wrath may burn against them. I might consume them in order that I may make a great nation of you. Moses, I'll get rid of them and I'll keep you. And Moses is like, God, don't do that. People are going to think you're a wicked God. They're going to say mean things about you. What kind of a legacy is this? All this, God doesn't destroy them all. But it's interesting. God has emotions too. Or at least he expresses them to us in a way that makes sense to us. So we're getting clarity through emotions. We're not forsaking or neglecting our emotions. We're seeking to understand and move forward in a way that is honorable to God. And even God here, maybe it was a test to Moses. Maybe God was testing the character of Moses' heart as he prayed to God to say, God, don't do this. Or God didn't do it. But then just a couple chapters later in the same book, Exodus 34, God is talking about worshiping other gods, which is basically it's adultery. It's cheating on God. He said, you shall worship no other God, For the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. God wants you. God feels so strongly for you. He doesn't want your heart to be anywhere else. He doesn't want you cheating on him. He wants you to be faithful to him because he's faithful to you. So process through your emotions, and God will see you through them. We don't let our emotions cloud our clarity from God. God's emotions lead to righteous action. And that's the next thing I want to talk about as we get to clarity, is this sense of action. Verse 3, it says, again, trust in the Lord, do good, dwell in the land, feed on faithfulness. Just kind of boom, 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 these imperatives. Just get working. And, inaction is as big of a problem as wrong action. We talk a lot about doing the wrong things, but also there's this problem of like not doing anything. And maybe if you've ever seen like little kids play football, it's getting to be about football season, and in football you have blocking assignments on offense. You got to block a guy, and they kind of like draw it up as like who you got to block, but it can be hard to like remember who you got, because these people move. On a piece of paper they don't move, but in real life they move, and so the kid gets up to the line and they say hike, and the kid just stands up and looking for his guy, right? And then the coach says, at least block somebody. Didn't block anybody. Well, that's sometimes what we can do in life, can't we? I don't know what to do, so I do nothing. Inaction is as big of a problem as doing the wrong thing. But the Bible is like pretty clear and pretty straightforward. Trust in God, have a relationship with God, and it says, do this. Do good. Do good. And just ask yourself, is this good? Is this right? Is this helpful? Is this kind? Just do that. It says, dwell in the land. Now, there's a deeper meaning here when we think about dwelling in the land, because what did God give his people in the Old Testament? The promised land. Okay, this is kind of like dwell in the midst of the promise. Like hold fast to what you've been given. And what does that mean? In the wisdom literature, like Ecclesiastes, it says there's nothing better than to enjoy your job, love your spouse, and live day by day in the presence of God, enjoying the simple things of life. Enjoy the good gifts that God gives you. And that's the kind of witness that Pauline had. Just enjoy the gifts that God has given you. A simple meal, whether it's hundreds or just a few. Time with family, whether it's big or small. Hard work, no matter where it is. Dwell in the land. And then I love this line. It said in the ESV, which we read earlier, it says befriend faithfulness. But if you look at like a little footnote in your Bible, you can go down to the bottom of the page and there's like alternate readings. And one of them is feed on faithfulness. The word here is actually like to pasture. Pasture yourself on faithfulness. Find the good grass. Find the good food. And the good food is, well, it's God's faithfulness. God promises to be faithful to you. So find your nourishment there in what God has done for you. And maybe what we can take from this is that clarity looks a whole lot like action. Maybe not so much sitting, pondering, thinking, but out there sometimes just doing. Stop thinking, just do. And it's one of the things that happened in Pauline's life. After her husband passed away, one of her children was like, we're going on a road trip. We're going on a road trip, and I saw her daughter's face light up as she was talking about just the excitement Pauline had to get in the car, go see new things, go experience new places, and do even simple things together. She loved it, and it revived her soul, and it gave her vibrancy back. It gave her life back. It helped her see the value of what God had given her once more. Clarity looks like action. And I think what we often find is that when we just get doing, we also start feeling better. It's kind of like working out. The first couple times it hurts. It's not great, but as you get into the routine, it's like, man, this actually feels good. I'm happy with what's going on in my body, with the energy I have, right? It's like clarity looks like action, and then action leads to delight, to joy. It's the third thing, clarity through delight. Verse 4, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. We test you every Sunday morning here, actually. Did you know that? We test you. You walk in, especially if you come in on this side of the building. If you're smart, you come in on the far side of the building. You walk in past this big table of these delicious looking and delicious smelling baked goods. As you open the door, the smell hits your nose, and that diet that you had planned on, I've been there way too many times. I think I'll have one. And then, my daughter didn't finish hers, so 1.5, Get some donuts. For all of you online, you're missing the donuts. You're going to have to just go get yourself a pack of donuts for worship. Our desires can make it hard to see clearly and to do what we know is right. And it goes deeper than just our diets, doesn't it? It goes to our hearts and into our souls. And James chapter 4 points this out. James says, what causes quarrels and fights among you? Isn't it this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire, you don't have, so you murder. You covet, you cannot obtain, so you fight and you quarrel. And he goes on, you don't have because you don't ask. You ask and you don't receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. Your desires, he's saying, are leading you to bad places. Your desires are to spend everything on yourself, to be a consumer. More. Our desires can cloud our sense of clarity, can't they? Maybe you've experienced that. I want this. I know I want this, but this other good thing, it's so appealing. Just one more click. Just one more bite. Just one more conversation. And down the path we go. No. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Desire isn't inherently bad. In fact, I think desire is meant to lead us to the only one who can satisfy. Desire is meant to lead us to the only one who can satisfy. And as we talk about this, there's a blind guy who's going to help us see. Caleb mentioned him. There's a blind guy named Bartimaeus who's going to help us see what this looks like. So Jesus leaving Jericho with his disciples and a great crowd, there's a guy named Bartimaeus, a blind beggar. He's sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that Jesus was coming, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So as we follow Bartimaeus on this journey, he's excited. He's got some emotions around Jesus coming, and he's going to pursue Jesus. But what happens as he starts to shout, other people get annoyed. He's like, no, he doesn't have time for you. Come on. Don't worry about it. Just be quiet. You're a blind beggar. You got nothing going for you in your life. Jesus has way more important things to do. But he perseveres. He just takes action. He's like, I don't care what anyone says or does. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. And so as he just faithfully, continually calls out, Jesus hears him. Jesus hears him. And it says that Jesus stopped. And he said, call that guy here. Call him. And they called the blind man saying, hey, take heart. He heard you. Get up. He's calling you to himself. And so what he did, he throws off his cloak. Basically, they had on these big cloaks, and he couldn't run as fast. So he just threw it off, sprang up. I don't know how he gets to Jesus as a blind guy, but he gets there. And Jesus said to him, what do you want? What do you desire? What can I do for you? What do you desire? See, desire is not inherently bad. Jesus wants to know, what do you want from me? How can I help you get what you desire? If Jesus came to you, what do you want me to do for you? Would you have an answer ready to go? Would you have something ready to say? Would you be too embarrassed to share that with Jesus? Jesus wants your desires to lead you to him. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your hearts. Jesus is the only one who can satisfy the deeper parts of our being. Jesus is the only one who can give us wholeness, who can give us peace, who can speak through the confusion of our shifting desires and bring true and lasting peace. What do you want me to do for you? Well, we know what the blind man wants. He wants to see. And that's what he says, Rabbi, that I may see, let me recover my sight. And Jesus said to him, go your way. Your faith has made you well. And immediately he recovered his sight and followed him on his way. Now, I want to highlight that. Jesus said, go your way. And Bartimaeus, well, there's no other way to go other than to follow Jesus, to commit his life to the path that Jesus is going. Well, and maybe you know where the path of Jesus heads. After he goes to Jericho, he's going down to Jerusalem. And when he goes to Jerusalem, he's going there to go to a cross and hang and die so he can create a pathway for all of us to have life forever with God. His commitment was to set us free, not just from physical blindness, but physical death. Not just spiritual blindness, but spiritual death. Jesus came to help the blind to see. And help us to see that what we see with our eyes isn't what we should necessarily believe, but that what we believe is how we're empowered to see. When we orient ourselves toward God through delight, what makes it really easy to commit to him. When God satisfies the desires of our hearts and we experience that, it makes it really easy for us to commit our lives to him. And that's where the fourth thing we're going to talk about as we come to clarity. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. God will act. And see, this is the important thing to highlight here, is that it says God is the one who's going to do it. He will be the one to act. We get to just see. God will make your righteousness, your way of life, shine like the light. Genesis chapter 1, God said, be light. God will make it clear in his time, in his way. Obviously, he can do all things. But the encouragement for us is this. Verse 9, the last verse we'll talk about from Psalm 37. It just says, those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Maybe you can't see it all today. Maybe the road ahead of you doesn't look very clear. That's the ironic thing about the clarity event. If you make your way around the property, you get to clarity, there's this tree that kind of hangs over it, right? And you can't see very far at the clarity station, but I think that's part of the point. It's not necessarily what our eyes can see, but it's what God can reveal. Wait for the Lord. And this is the powerful thing about this verse. Those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. What do you do? What do you do to inherit something? Nothing. Maybe cynically, yet somebody has to die. Yeah. But you don't have to do anything. And the someone has already died. That's what we confess every single Sunday, that Jesus lived and died and rose again so that we might inherit the land, not a physical place here and now, but the resurrection. that he has planned for us, and the peace and the clarity that comes now from living in the light of his love. Wait on God. Because God sees you. God knows you. God sees your path. God knows your ways. What do you want me to do for you? Lord, give us clarity. Amen.